Ever wondered why some people seem to understand anyone instantly while others struggle to connect? The secret isn't luck, it's a mastery of human behavior that anyone can learn. In this series, you'll discover actionable techniques to read microexpressions, decode body language, and communicate with precision, turning every interaction into an opportunity for trust, influence, and connection. By applying these strategies, you'll not only understand people faster, but also elevate your relationships, career, and personal growth. Hit subscribe now and start unlocking the psychology of human behavior. Transform the way you connect with the world today. Number 1. Observe microexpressions before responding. A glance can reveal an entire paragraph if attention is trained to read the tiny, honest movements that slip past words. Microexpressions are the body's brief, involuntary punctuation marks, 30, 50, maybe a few hundred milliseconds, where truth blinks through. Becoming skilled at noticing them is not about duplicity or manipulation. It is about clarity, restraint, and respect for what matters most, accurate perception of reality. Accuracy prevents needless reaction, wasted emotion, and poor decision. The practice begins with a single promise to slow the mind, steady the eyes, and treat every conversation as a source of information rather than an emergency. Start by treating the face like terrain. Eyes and brows are hills and valleys where small shifts mark mood and intention. Mouth and jaw are rivers where tension and release flow. Pay attention to the timing of movement. A genuine smile begins at the eyes. A forced one often stays in the mouth. A quick furrowing of the brow before a composed answer signals confusion or concern beneath a practiced exterior. The first practical step is to look for incongruence, what the voice and words claim versus what the face briefly reveals. When something mismatches, register it without judgment. Accurate observation is an act of discipline. Reacting is optional. Practice in safe, low-stakes places. Watch short video clips of interviews, speeches, or conversations. Pause and rewind small sections, focusing only on the face. Train for one clear goal. Recognize the 7 basic emotional flashes: happiness, sadness, fear, anger, surprise, disgust, and contempt. They are not exhaustive, but they are frequent and reliable signposts. Create a simple drill. Watch 30 seconds of a clip, then write down one emotion you saw and why. Note the muscle movement, the duration, and whether it matched the speaker's words. Do this 5 minutes a day for a week. Small, deliberate repetitions build a new perceptual muscle. In real conversations, slow down the rhythm of reply. The most powerful habit a person can acquire is to hold a steady, silent beat between perception and response. When the face shifts, let 3 calm breaths pass before replying. Those breaths serve 3 purposes. They prevent reflexive words, they allow additional cues to arrive, and they signal to the other person that presence matters more than speed. Silence will feel risky at first. That discomfort is useful. Discomfort shows where impulsive habits live. Choosing silence over immediate reaction is a practice of self-mastery that converts raw data into wise action. Ground observation and baseline. Each person has a habitual tempo and resting expression. Observe how someone behaves while they are comfortable and unpressured. This is the baseline. Then notice deviations from that baseline under different circumstances. A small squeeze of the jaw for one person might be normal. For another, it might mean building anger. Baseline observation can be as simple as noting 3 steady traits: usual eye contact, natural facial tension, and default speech tempo. Compare these quietly to what appears during critical moments. That comparison separates noise from signal. Refine the senses by widening the scan. Microexpressions often start in one place: an eye twitch, a nostril flare, a single tightened muscle at the corner of the mouth, but they ripple outward. Train the gaze to move in a small loop: eyes, brow, nose, mouth, jaw, then back. Keep movements subtle and soft. A hard stare will shut down natural behavior and produce false readings. The goal is not to stare like a detective, but to be present like a calm witness. Presence invites authenticity. Calm observational presence soothes the other person and increases the chances that genuine expressions show. Record and reflect. After important conversations, interviews, feedback sessions, difficult family talks, write a short note. What micro moments stood out? When did the other person's face tell a different story than their words? How did that insight change the conversation you had immediately following? Reflection cements learning. Review these notes weekly. Patterns reveal themselves, repeated small tells, stress triggers, or even ways you unintentionally escalate tension. Awareness without analysis is like owning tools without knowing how to use them. Reflection builds competence. Use microexpressions ethically. The aim is greater empathy, not exploitation. When a microexpression signals pain or fear, respond with restraint and care, rather than interrogation. A soft, validating sentence, one that names the observed feeling without forcing agreement, helps the other person feel seen and safe. For example, there was a flicker of concern when that came up. Is that accurate? That phrasing is precise, non-accusatory, and invites correction. A direct question without that gentle framing will make others defensive. Mastery of microexpressions is a form of stewardship of human connection. Build a personal daily drill to sharpen accuracy. The drill has 4 parts: observation, note, pause, practice. Observation: watch for 30 seconds in a real interaction and identify one micro movement. Note: silently label it in a single word: tension, surprise, amusement. Pause, take 3 breaths, and choose your response based on both speech and expression. Practice: apply a corrective or supportive line within the next 20 seconds. Short, repeated cycles convert passive seeing into confident, ethical action. Over time, reaction will become calmer, choices more intentional, and relationships more honest. Measure progress with small metrics. Keep a simple log with 2 columns: what was seen, what happened next. After a month, read the log. Increased alignment between observed microexpression and accurate interpretation will be evident. If misreads persist, return to video drills and baseline work. Improvement is rarely linear. Expect plateaus and small regressions. Steady practice is the only reliable traction. Apply the skill to distinct life arenas. In leadership, noticing fleeting doubt or loss of energy allows one to pause and redistribute responsibility before mistakes multiply. In negotiations, a brief tightening at the mouth signals defensiveness. Easing pressure and acknowledging their point often unlocks movement. With family, seeing a rapid blink of hurt when a joke lands poorly is a cue to repair tone immediately. In hiring, microexpression shifts during a candidate's response to stress questions reveal resilience and authenticity more clearly than rehearsed answers. The applications are many, but the method is constant. Observe, pause, interpret gently, respond with purpose. Cultivate inner composure to match external acuity. Spotting microexpressions is only valuable if the observer remains steady. Emotional volatility undermines perception. Train the body through simple practices: breathing, posture, short cold exposure, or disciplined morning routines that produce steady presence. Stoic discipline is not austere suffering. It is the habitual choosing of what is within control. Control attention. Control tempo. The mind that is calm sees more, judges less harshly, and acts with integrity. Finally, cultivate humility in interpretation. Microexpressions are signals, not verdicts. Read them as hypotheses, not conclusions. When there is doubt, ask clarifying, open questions that invite correction. For instance, I noticed a quick look when that was mentioned, curious if something was uncomfortable. Such a line acknowledges observation and opens the floor for truth. It is a practice of respect. It treats the other person as the primary source of their experience. This skill does more than make interactions smoother. It changes the inner landscape. With trained eyes, the world becomes less confusing and less urgent. This reduces needless outrage, impulsive concessions, and miscommunication. The practice of observing microexpressions fosters patience, deepened empathy, and the steady courage to choose responses that align with values rather than reactivity. That is the true prize. Not mastery over others, but mastery over oneself, and through that mastery, the capacity to act in ways that build trust, create clarity, and make life quieter and more effective. Number 2, Mirror body language subtly. Body language is an unspoken language that communicates more honestly and efficiently than words ever could. Every tilt of the head, lean of the body, or subtle gesture carries information about a person's emotions, intentions, and state of mind. Learning to mirror body language is not about copying someone in a cartoonish or overt way. It is about cultivating connection, understanding, and influence in the quietest, most respectful manner possible. The skill begins with observation and grows through intention, patience, and consistent practice. When done correctly, subtle mirroring opens doors that words alone cannot, fostering trust and rapport without coercion. The first step is awareness. People constantly send signals through posture, gestures, facial expressions, and even the rhythm of their breathing. Some are obvious, others are fleeting and almost imperceptible. To begin, slow down interactions. Watch how a person stands, how they position their hands, how their weight shifts from one foot to the other, or how their eyes move across the room. This requires presence and the ability to quiet your own internal chatter. Observing without reacting immediately is critical. The mind must act as a recording device before it becomes a mirror. Mirroring starts with posture. If someone leans slightly forward, mirroring that lean subtly signals engagement and attentiveness. If their shoulders relax, your own can follow a softened rhythm. The key is subtlety. Too much, and it reads as mockery or manipulation. Too little, and the connection remains shallow. The human mind is exquisitely sensitive to rhythm and alignment, so even a slight adjustment in your stance, synchronized naturally with theirs, conveys empathy and mutual understanding. Practice adjusting your own posture in response to others in low-stakes environments, cafes, meetings, or casual conversations. Over time, this becomes second nature. Hand gestures carry enormous communicative weight. Notice the size, frequency, and intensity of gestures. Are they expressive and wide, or contained and minimal? Mirroring hand movements builds rapport in a way that feels natural. If someone frequently touches their face or gestures toward themselves, a slight echoing of similar gestures can create subconscious alignment. The subtle art lies in timing. Copying a gesture instantly makes it obvious. Matching the rhythm and pace, slightly delayed, feels organic and supportive. It signals understanding without the need for words. Facial expressions are equally important. People communicate emotion through smiles, frowns, eyebrow movements, and microtensions in the jaw. When someone smiles gently, a softening of your own expression fosters mutual comfort. If their expression becomes serious, a mirrored tightening or focus communicates attentiveness. This doesn't require mimicry or exaggeration, just alignment. Facial mirroring strengthens empathy because it signals without speech that you are emotionally present. Over time, subtle alignment can lower defenses and create a genuine sense of ease in interaction. Voice tone, pace, and volume are forms of body language that often go unnoticed. Matching someone's rhythm of speech, tone, and tempo can increase receptivity. A rapid speaker may feel unheard if answered in slow, monotone sentences. A slow speaker may feel pressured if met with haste. Mirroring vocal patterns subtly, along with physical gestures, creates holistic alignment. It allows communication to flow more smoothly, and the listener feels understood at both conscious and subconscious levels. Practice listening with focus and adjusting tone naturally, without overthinking or forcing synchronization. Subtle mirroring extends to breathing and energy levels. People emit emotional states through micro-patterns, shallow, quick breaths, often signal anxiety or excitement, while slow, deep breathing conveys calm. Adjusting your own breathing rhythm to harmonize with theirs can regulate the emotional energy in a conversation. If someone is tense, matching their tension initially but then gradually relaxing can help ease their state, providing stability and reassurance. This is a conscious, disciplined practice of influence that prioritizes emotional balance over control. Timing is critical. Mirroring is most effective when it is not immediate or overt. Slight delays make the alignment feel natural rather than staged. Observe for 3 to 5 seconds before making subtle adjustments. This allows a natural rhythm to emerge, creating rapport that feels intuitive rather than calculated. Quick, reactive mimicry often breaks trust, whereas delayed, subtle alignment signals empathy, patience, and understanding. In every conversation, the ability to wait, perceive, and then align distinguishes a reactive mind from a strategic, emotionally intelligent one. Mirroring also requires ethical awareness. The purpose is connection, not manipulation. It is a form of silent respect, acknowledging the other person's emotional state and creating a shared space of understanding. It is never a tool for coercion, ridicule, or deceit. When done correctly, it enhances genuine communication and allows both parties to feel safe, heard, and understood. Ethical mirroring strengthens relationships and fosters trust, making it a powerful tool for leaders, negotiators, and anyone seeking deeper human connection. Practice in controlled environments. Before applying these techniques in high-stakes scenarios, watch interactions in public spaces or media and note posture, gestures, expressions, and vocal rhythm. Then, in small conversations with friends or colleagues, begin to mirror subtly, adjust one element at a time, lean, hand gestures, or tone rather than attempting all at once. This phased approach prevents awkwardness and allows internalization of the skill. Gradually, mirroring will become instinctive, integrated into the way presence and attention are expressed. Reflecting on outcomes is vital. After interactions, review how subtle mirroring affected the conversation. Did alignment create smoother communication? Was there greater openness or trust? Where did subtlety succeed or fail? Journaling observations reinforces learning and identifies patterns for improvement. Over weeks and months, small intentional adjustments compound, yielding dramatic improvements in relational intelligence. Observation, practice, reflection, and adjustment form the cycle that transforms awareness into mastery. The benefits of mirroring go beyond the immediate conversation. It cultivates patience, presence, and emotional intelligence. It teaches restraint, as the discipline of subtlety prevents impulsive reactions. It also strengthens empathy, as the act of aligning with another person's behavior necessitates attentive awareness and consideration. Over time, these skills enrich every interaction, from professional meetings to personal relationships, creating a foundation of understanding and mutual respect. Subtle mirroring also enhances persuasion and influence naturally. When people feel understood on a nonverbal level, they become more receptive to ideas, guidance, or feedback. Influence is strongest when it is invisible, born from connection rather than force. Mirroring cultivates influence that is ethical and sustainable, rooted in genuine understanding. Leaders who master this skill find that teams respond more openly, negotiations proceed more smoothly, and conflicts resolve with greater ease. It is a practice of soft power that produces measurable results without confrontation. Mirroring is not static. It adapts to the flow of interaction. Observe when to hold alignment and when to release it. Too much mirroring can feel like mimicry. Too little can feel distant. The skill lies in reading energy shifts and adjusting in real time. It is an active process that requires constant conscious attention. Yet with practice, it becomes effortless, flowing naturally alongside genuine engagement. This dynamic balance fosters authenticity while maintaining connection. Long-term mastery of mirroring cultivates inner discipline. The practitioner learns to be patient, aware, and self-regulated. The skill transforms perception, improving clarity and communication and decision-making. It allows one to respond with intention rather than react impulsively. By synchronizing subtly with others, the mind develops a deeper understanding of human behavior, creating a foundation for empathy, influence, and trust. The benefits ripple outward, enriching personal growth and social interactions alike. Mirroring body language subtly is more than a technique. It is a discipline of attention, presence, and respect. It fosters deeper understanding, authentic connection, and effective communication. It requires patience, careful observation, ethical awareness, and continuous practice. Each micro-adjustment strengthens the ability to perceive, align, and respond appropriately. Over time, mastery of this skill builds confidence, emotional intelligence, and relational harmony, transforming ordinary interactions into powerful exchanges of understanding, influence, and trust. It is a quiet, powerful way to bridge the gap between people, demonstrating that true connection begins not with words, but with presence, observation, and subtle alignment. Number 3, ask open-ended questions daily. Conversations are the gateway to understanding the human mind, but the way questions are framed determines the depth and authenticity of the answers received. Open-ended questions create space for thought, reflection, and genuine expression, while closed-ended questions often constrain responses to yes, no, or other limited options. Asking open-ended questions daily is not merely a tool for curiosity. It is a disciplined practice that strengthens relationships, expands awareness, and cultivates insight into human behavior. It is a habit that transforms superficial interactions into meaningful exchanges, allowing the truth beneath words to emerge naturally. The practice begins with intention. Every question should serve a purpose beyond filling silence. Open-ended questions invite narrative and explanation. They are designed to prompt reflection, detail, and perspective. Simple changes in phrasing make a significant difference. Instead of asking, "Did you like the meeting?" ask, "What stood out to you in the meeting?" Or "How did the meeting influence your thinking?" These subtle adjustments shift the responsibility of the answer to the other person, empowering them to share more deeply while allowing you to perceive layers of thought, emotion, and motivation. Asking open-ended questions demands attentiveness. It is impossible to be truly present and effective if attention is divided. Focus on tone, context, and body language while asking and listening. Notice pauses, inflections, and gestures that accompany answers. Often the richest insights emerge not from the words themselves, but from what is expressed physically and emotionally alongside them. Listening with full attention signals respect and encourages honesty. A single daily interaction where one is fully attentive can teach more about human behavior than dozens of distracted conversations. The habit of daily practice is essential. Set a goal to ask at least 3 open-ended questions to different individuals every day, whether in work meetings, family interactions, or casual encounters. Variety ensures exposure to different personalities, contexts, and emotional states. Observe how people respond differently depending on mood, environment, or topic. Over time, this builds a mental library of human tendencies, patterns, and unique expressions of thought and feeling. Daily consistency turns occasional curiosity into skilled perception. Craft questions to encourage storytelling. Humans naturally process experiences through narrative. Instead of asking for facts or opinions, invite experiences. For example, "Can you walk me through how you approached that challenge?" Or "What was the most significant moment for you this week?" Storytelling provides access to thought processes, problem-solving strategies, and emotional responses. It reveals motivations and priorities in ways that short, factual answers cannot. Encourage elaboration gently, without pressure, to allow narratives to unfold organically. Use reflective listening in tandem with questioning. Repeat keywords or paraphrase parts of the answer, then ask a follow-up question to deepen the exploration. For example, if someone mentions difficulty with a project, reflect, "It sounds like that task was particularly demanding. What strategies did you consider to handle it?" This combination of reflection and inquiry demonstrates comprehension, validates the speaker, and naturally encourages expansion. Daily application of this method reinforces both empathy and analytical skills, allowing you to read layers of human behavior more effectively. Pay attention to emotional cues that arise in response to questions. People may reveal excitement, hesitation, pride, frustration, or vulnerability in subtle ways. When a response triggers emotion, explore it respectfully with another open-ended question. "What was challenging about that?" Or "How did you feel when that happened?" Emotional transparency is often veiled in surface-level statements. Gentle, consistent questioning uncovers those layers while strengthening connection and trust. Practicing this daily hones the ability to sense underlying emotional currents that shape behavior. Develop curiosity that is genuine and non-judgmental. Open-ended questioning loses impact if the intent is manipulation, correction, or judgment. Approach each question with authentic interest in understanding the other person's perspective. When curiosity is sincere, responses are richer and more revealing. People naturally sense authenticity. They relax and elaborate when they feel safe and valued. Practicing daily reinforces a mindset of inquiry, humility, and patience, cultivating a deeper capacity for empathy and insight. Learn to embrace silence. After posing an open-ended question, allow moments of quiet for thought. Resist the urge to fill gaps with commentary or rephrasing. Silence encourages reflection, giving the responder time to consider and articulate thoughts fully. This disciplined pause enhances the quality of answers and teaches self-restraint, reinforcing the principle that understanding requires patience. Over time, the skill of tolerating and utilizing silence becomes a powerful tool in perceiving genuine thoughts and feelings. Observe patterns over time. Track the types of questions that elicit meaningful responses, the emotional triggers they reveal, and the communication styles of different individuals. Some may respond best to narrative prompts. Others may open up when asked about opinions or values. Recognizing these patterns allows for tailored, more effective questioning, deepening understanding with each interaction. Daily practice provides a wealth of data about human tendencies, decision-making processes, and relational dynamics, turning habit into expertise. Pair questions with situational awareness. Context shapes responses. A person's environment, current stressors, and social setting all influence how they express themselves. Observing these conditions while asking open-ended questions adds layers of understanding. For example, responses in a formal work meeting may differ significantly from casual conversations in informal settings. Awareness of context allows one to interpret answers accurately and empathetically. Daily observation and questioning sharpen this sensitivity, helping to decode human behavior with precision. Incorporate open-ended questions into self-reflection. The same principle that reveals insights about others can illuminate patterns within oneself. Asking, "What did I learn from that situation?" or "How could I approach that challenge differently next time?" cultivates self-awareness and emotional intelligence. Daily engagement with such reflective questioning strengthens decision-making, discipline, and resilience. Observing responses internally provides a mirror to understand personal triggers, habits, and motivations, complementing external insights. Encourage autonomy in responses. Avoid leading questions or those that imply a correct answer. The goal is to hear authentic thought, not to confirm assumptions. Questions such as "What influenced your decision?" or "What are your priorities in this situation?" allow the speaker to express reasoning, values, and judgment without interference. Practicing this daily reinforces respect for individual agency while deepening understanding of diverse mental frameworks. Notice the energy of responses. Words carry content, but energy conveys engagement, emotion, and authenticity. Some answers may be brief, but delivered with enthusiasm. Others lengthy, but disengaged. Open-ended questions reveal this energy, which often provides more insight than the literal answer. Observing these nuances requires daily practice to recognize subtle variations and interpret them accurately. Energy detection enhances the ability to gauge motivation, confidence, and sincerity in interaction. Integrate questions seamlessly into natural conversation. They need not be formal or structured. Casual inquiries like "What was the highlight of your day?" or "How did that situation feel for you?" can reveal more than structured interviews. Daily application and everyday interactions ensures the habit becomes intuitive. As questioning becomes natural, the quality of interpersonal understanding improves, shaping the way relationships evolve and decisions are made. Open-ended questioning strengthens patience, empathy, and curiosity. The discipline of asking, listening, and observing without interrupting fosters presence, reduces impulsive judgments, and enhances relational intelligence. Daily repetition transforms the practice into a core skill that improves perception, communication, and influence. Over time, the ability to uncover authentic thoughts, emotions, and motivations becomes second nature, profoundly impacting personal and professional growth. The consistent application of open-ended questions daily cultivates a mindset attuned to observation, understanding, and reflection. It enhances empathy, builds trust, and provides a window into human behavior that goes far beyond surface appearances. Each interaction becomes an opportunity to gather insight, practice patience, and refine perception. By committing to this daily discipline, one gradually develops the ability to decode human motives, anticipate needs, and respond with wisdom, creating deeper, more meaningful connections and fostering long-term personal growth. Number 4. Listen for emotional keywords. Words are vessels carrying not just meaning but emotion, and learning to hear the emotional weight behind them transforms conversations into insights. Emotional keywords are the markers of what truly matters to a person, often hidden beneath layers of politeness, habit, or self-censorship. These words are often adjectives, nouns, or phrases that reveal fear, excitement, doubt, pride, or hope. Listening for them requires patience, focus, and discipline. This skill is not about dissecting language for manipulation. It is about tuning into the currents of human experience, allowing understanding to emerge with clarity and depth. The first step is intentional listening. Conversations often feel like a stream of information where the mind jumps ahead to formulate responses or judgments. To hear emotional keywords, silence the reflex to react immediately. Let words arrive fully before analyzing. Focus on what feels emphasized, repeated, or unusually phrased. Emotional significance often manifests as a slight change in pitch, volume, or rhythm. For instance, someone saying "I'm frustrated" might emphasize the word frustrated in a way that signals intensity far beyond casual complaint. Attuning to these subtle cues transforms ordinary listening into perceptive engagement. Recognizing patterns within speech is critical. People tend to reveal emotional states repeatedly, often through certain phrases or expressions. Words such as overwhelmed, stressed, excited, worried, or proud may appear multiple times across conversations, hinting at consistent internal states. Daily practice involves noting these recurring emotional keywords, either mentally or in a journal. Over time, a map of someone's emotional landscape begins to emerge. Awareness of these patterns allows for informed, empathetic responses rather than guesses or assumptions. Context gives emotional keywords depth. The same word can carry different meanings depending on the situation, tone, and body language accompanying it. For example, challenged could signify frustration in a work setting or excitement in an adventurous context. Listening for context ensures accurate interpretation. Observation of surrounding nonverbal cues, facial expression, posture, gestures, enhances understanding. Emotional keywords are rarely isolated. They exist as part of a network of signals that reveal priorities, motivations, and vulnerabilities. Active engagement enhances perception. When an emotional keyword surfaces, reflect briefly on it silently before responding. Mentally label it fear, joy, uncertainty, or pride. This labeling helps maintain clarity and prevents projection of one's own assumptions onto the speaker. By mentally tagging emotions, responses can be calibrated to align with the speaker's state, rather than interrupting or redirecting it. The act of labeling also strengthens memory and observation skills, reinforcing the ability to detect subtle emotional signals over time. Follow-up questions are tools for deepening understanding once emotional keywords are noticed. Asking questions such as, "What makes you feel that way?" or "Can you tell me more about that experience?" invites elaboration without judgment. The key is to maintain a neutral, supportive tone while encouraging honesty. Open-ended follow-ups rooted in emotional keywords uncover layers of meaning that casual conversation often leaves hidden. They also demonstrate empathy, showing the other person that their feelings are recognized and respected. Not all emotional keywords are explicit. Many people communicate feelings indirectly, using metaphors, analogies, or phrases that hint at internal states. Phrases like "I can't seem to catch up" may convey stress or anxiety, while "I feel stuck" could indicate frustration or confusion. Training to detect these subtle indicators requires patience and mindfulness. Daily attention to language in conversations, media, and reading material sharpens the skill, allowing one to discern implied emotion with increasing accuracy. The impact of focusing on emotional keywords extends beyond comprehension. It fosters connection, People are wired to respond to empathy and understanding. When someone feels heard and emotionally understood, trust deep. Responding appropriately to the emotional weight behind words can de-escalate tension, encourage openness, and reinforce bonds. This requires discipline, restrain from interrupting or immediately offering solutions, and instead mirror understanding through acknowledgement and validation. Phrases like, "It sounds like that was really challenging for you," anchor conversation and recognition rather than reaction. Developing sensitivity to emotional keywords also strengthens emotional intelligence. Noticing shifts in word choice or emphasis illuminates internal processes, uncertainty, confidence, pride, or fear that may otherwise remain hidden. This awareness improves interpersonal skills, decision-making, and leadership effectiveness. Daily practice refines the ability to gauge not just what is said, but how it is said and what it reveals about underlying motivations. Over time, this skill allows one to anticipate reactions, respond thoughtfully, and navigate complex social dynamics with clarity. Listening for emotional keywords is enhanced by observing contradictions between words and nonverbal cues. People may say, "I'm fine," while subtle tension, avoidance, or sighs indicate otherwise. These contradictions are opportunities to explore gently, using emotional keywords as entry points. "I noticed you said you're fine, but you seem tense. What's happening?" Such observations frame discare, encourage honesty, and build credibility. They also sharpen discernment, training the mind to detect inconsistencies in underlying truth. Practice structured exercises to strengthen this skill. Choose conversations with the explicit goal of identifying emotional keywords. After each interaction, review what words seemed loaded with emotional content, how they aligned with context, and what nonverbal cues accompanied them. Reflect on your responses and assess whether they addressed the emotional truth effectively. Structured repetition over weeks solidifies recognition, interpretation, and ethical application, converting conscious effort into instinctive understanding. Pair the skill with patience and restraint. Not every emotional keyword requires immediate action or response. Sometimes, recognition alone is sufficient to deepen understanding. Cultivating the discipline to notice, register, and allow the emotion to exist without forcing change strengthens empathy. It also reinforces the capacity to remain present, observing human behavior without haste or judgment. Patience transforms listening from a passive activity into a strategic practice of insight. Understanding emotional keywords also enables better guidance and influence. By tuning into what truly matters to someone, advice, suggestions, and decisions can be tailored to resonate with their values, fears, or desires. This approach creates solutions that feel intuitive rather than imposed. Over time, the practice builds credibility, trust, and mutual respect. Influence becomes an outcome of comprehension rather than force or persuasion. Incorporate reflection into daily routines. Journaling emotional keywords, noticed in interactions, noting context, responses, and outcomes, reinforces learning. Over weeks, patterns emerge, revealing not only others' emotional tendencies but also one's own perceptual strengths and blind spots. This practice cultivates metacognition, the awareness of how one interprets human behavior, and strengthens long-term emotional literacy. The consistent application of listening for emotional keywords transforms perception, relationships, and self-mastery. Conversations become more than exchanges of information. They become maps of thought, emotion, and intention. With dedicated attention, the practitioner develops insight into subtle cues, anticipates reactions, and responds with measured empathy. This skill empowers navigation of both personal and professional interactions, fostering trust, influence, and authentic connection. Daily practice ingrains the ability to hear not just words, but the emotional truth they carry, creating a life enriched by clarity, understanding, and profound relational intelligence. By committing to listen deeply for emotional keywords every day, one develops the rare capacity to perceive the human experience beneath the surface of speech. It cultivates patience, empathy, and discernment, while revealing the layers of motivation, feeling, and intention that drive behavior. Over time, this disciplined awareness strengthens self-mastery, enhances communication, and elevates the quality of every relationship, creating a powerful, practical tool for navigating the complexity of human interaction with wisdom and insight. Number 5. Notice baseline behavior shifts. Every individual carries a rhythm, a subtle signature in the way they move, speak, and respond to the world. This signature is their baseline behavior, the patterns of posture, gestures, tone, and expression that occur naturally when they are calm, focused, and unpressured. Understanding these baseline behaviors is the cornerstone of interpreting deviations accurately. Shifts from this baseline signal change, often revealing stress, excitement, hesitation, or concealed emotion. Noticing these shifts is a skill that transforms casual observation into insight, allowing one to perceive underlying truths in human behavior with clarity and precision. The process begins with careful observation over time. To notice baseline shifts, first establish what is typical for each person. Observe their habitual posture, the tempo of speech, the frequency of gestures, eye contact, and facial expressions. Document these tendencies mentally or through discrete notes. Baseline is not static. It can fluctuate slightly based on time of day or context, so patterns are best understood through repeated observation across multiple scenarios. This patience lays the foundation for discerning meaningful deviations rather than mistaking normal variation for significant signals. Once a baseline is established, the next step is attentive detection. Subtle changes often precede overt behavioral cues. A slight tightening of the jaw, a brief pause before answering, or an uncharacteristic shift in gaze may indicate discomfort, hesitation, or guardedness. These shifts are fleeting, requiring concentration and mindfulness to capture. The observer must cultivate a steady presence, resisting the impulse to interpret too quickly, instead allowing the behavior to unfold naturally. Over time, the ability to detect even minor deviations sharpens, producing a nuanced understanding of human emotion and intention. Baseline shifts are most meaningful when compared against context. Environmental factors, social dynamics, and recent experiences influence behavior. For instance, a normally confident person may hesitate in a high-stakes situation, or a typically calm individual might exhibit nervous gestures in unfamiliar settings. Accurate interpretation requires considering these external conditions alongside observed deviations. This practice trains the mind to integrate multiple dimensions of information, enhancing situational awareness and minimizing misjudgment. Emotional states often manifest through baseline shifts. Anxiety may appear as fidgeting, quicker speech, or avoidance of eye contact. Excitement might present as elevated posture, wider gestures, or faster breathing. Frustration could surface in tightened muscles, clipped responses, or rigid posture. Recognizing these indicators allows for responsive interaction, whether offering support, adjusting communication style, or addressing concerns proactively. Observing emotional cues without judgment fosters empathy, while providing actionable insight into underlying states. Developing this skill requires disciplined practice in everyday life. Begin with brief interactions in low-stakes environments, coffee shops, meetings, casual conversations. Observe a person for several minutes, noting habitual tendencies, then watch for any deviations as the interaction progresses. Ask yourself, what is different from their usual behavior? How does that align with the context and topic at hand? This structured approach reinforces perception and attention, gradually transforming casual noticing into refined analytical ability. Daily practice should include reflection. After each interaction, review observed shifts and evaluate responses. Were deviations significant, or were they minor contextual variations? How did they correlate with verbal communication or environmental factors? Reflection solidifies learning and creates a mental repository of behavioral patterns, improving predictive accuracy in future interactions. Over time, this habit enhances both professional and personal relationships by allowing for thoughtful, informed engagement based on subtle cues rather than assumptions. Baseline shifts are also critical in high-stakes or emotionally charged scenarios. In negotiations, interviews, or conflict resolution, detecting small deviations in posture, tone, or facial expression can provide early warnings of resistance, agreement, or uncertainty. Responding to these signals with calm, measured adjustments, clarifying questions, empathetic statements, or strategic pauses enhances influence and understanding. Awareness of baseline shifts allows for proactive, deliberate action rather than reactive guesswork, creating more controlled and effective interactions. The skill extends to reading groups as well as individuals. In a team or social setting, noticing when group members collectively shift from their usual behavior patterns can signal tension, enthusiasm, or disengagement. For instance, sudden silence, scattered attention, or an increase in restless movement might indicate discomfort or disagreement. Recognizing these patterns allows one to address issues before they escalate, adapt communication strategies, reinforce alignment, demonstrating leadership and perceptive awareness. Ethical application is paramount. Observing baseline shifts is a tool for understanding and empathy, not manipulation. It should be used to foster genuine connection, provide support, and respond appropriately to emotional states. Ethical use reinforces trust and encourages openness, whereas exploitative use damages relationships and diminishes credibility. Practicing with integrity ensures that the skill strengthens both perception and interpersonal bonds, creating value for both observer and observed. Integrating baseline observation with other behavioral cues amplifies effectiveness. Combine attention to baseline shifts with microexpressions, emotional keywords, and subtle vocal cues for a holistic understanding. This multidimensional approach reveals not only what is happening in the moment, but also underlying motivations and emotional states. Daily integration of these observational techniques produces a sophisticated awareness that allows one to navigate complex human interactions with insight and precision. Long-term development requires consistency. Observing baseline shifts is not a one-time effort, but a lifelong practice of attention, reflection, and adaptation. Each interaction provides new data points, refining understanding and deepening empathy. Over months and years, the mind becomes adept at detecting subtle deviations, almost instinctively, enhancing social perception, decision-making, and relational intelligence. This cumulative growth translates into greater self-mastery, as awareness of others' behaviors also informs awareness of one's own patterns and triggers. Reflection on personal response is equally important. Observing shifts in others challenges the observer to remain composed and disciplined. Emotional reactions to detected deviations must be managed consciously to maintain clarity and presence. Developing the ability to notice without overreacting fosters patience, resilience, and emotional intelligence. It reinforces the principle that perception is a tool, while response is a choice shaped by wisdom rather than impulse. Incorporating baseline observation into daily routines sharpens both social and professional acumen. In workplace meetings, noticing when a colleague's energy or tone shifts can reveal engagement, resistance, or uncertainty. In personal relationships, subtle changes in posture or vocal cadence may signal discomfort or unspoken feelings. By tuning into these deviations consistently, interactions become more informed, responsive, and empathetic. Awareness of baseline shifts transforms ordinary communication into a strategic, insightful practice. Over time, the ability to notice baseline behavior shifts nurtures a deep understanding of human nature. It teaches patience, attentiveness, and humility, showing that people are complex and dynamic. Rather than reacting to surface-level words or gestures, the skilled observer interprets context, patterns, and subtle variations to respond thoughtfully. This capability fosters trust, deepens relationships, and provides a foundation for influence rooted in understanding rather than assumption or coercion. Mastery of baseline observation also encourages self-improvement. Understanding others' behavioral patterns highlights the importance of awareness, self-regulation, and emotional intelligence in oneself. Practicing observation with care cultivates reflection on personal responses, enhancing self-discipline and resilience. This dual perspective, perceiving others accurately while refining one's own behavior, creates a feedback loop that accelerates growth, insight, and relational effectiveness. Noticing baseline behavior shifts is an indispensable skill for anyone seeking clarity in human interaction. It requires patient observation, contextual awareness, ethical consideration, and disciplined reflection. With consistent practice, this skill reveals the subtle currents of emotion, intention, and thought that underlie daily interactions. By integrating this awareness into everyday life, one gains a profound ability to connect, understand, and respond effectively, transforming ordinary encounters into opportunities for insight, influence, and meaningful connection. This practice ultimately cultivates mastery over perception, empathy, and relational intelligence, equipping individuals to navigate the complexities of human behavior with wisdom, subtlety, and grace. Number 6. Label emotions to build rapport. Humans have an innate desire to feel understood. Emotions drive decisions, shape perceptions, and influence interactions in ways that words alone rarely capture. Labeling emotions is a deliberate, disciplined approach to acknowledging what someone feels without judgment, correction, or assumption. It is a method that communicates presence, empathy, and respect, building trust and deepening rapport almost instantaneously. The skill lies in identifying the core feeling beneath words, tone, and behavior, and articulating it in a clear, compassionate way that resonates without imposing. Over time, this practice transforms interactions into meaningful exchanges grounded in understanding. The first step is active observation. Emotional states manifest across multiple channels: facial expressions, vocal tone, gestures, posture, and choice of words. Each channel offers clues that point to the underlying emotion. A tight jaw might indicate tension or frustration. A softened gaze can signal openness or relief. Listen carefully to repeated words, shifts in tone, and phrasing that conveys intensity. Every small detail is a signal. The goal is not to diagnose or judge, but to recognize patterns that reveal how someone is truly feeling in the moment. Once an emotional signal is identified, it is essential to mentally articulate it before verbalizing. Internally labeling the observed emotion sharpens clarity and prevents projection of one's assumptions. For example, if someone sighs and mutters about workload, a mental label like stress or overwhelm organizes the observation. This step ensures accuracy and prevents impulsive or inaccurate statements. Disciplined attention to detail in this stage strengthens the mind's ability to detect subtle emotional cues over time. The verbal step of labeling requires tact and precision. A simple phrase, such as, "It seems like you're feeling frustrated," or "I notice some excitement in your tone," communicates awareness without intruding. It validates the person's experience and signals that they are being heard on an emotional level. Using non-judgmental language is critical. The label should describe observed emotion rather than interpret motive or intention. This careful articulation fosters trust and encourages further openness. Timing is equally important. Emotional labeling works best when delivered at moments of calm presence, rather than in rushed or chaotic exchanges. If a person is mid-rant, overwhelmed by emotion, or distracted, the label might feel intrusive or dismissive. Observing natural pauses, reflective moments, or changes in tone creates openings for labeling that are both natural and effective. Practicing patience cultivates a deeper understanding of human behavior, reinforcing the connection between observation and thoughtful response. Active listening enhances the effectiveness of labeling. Pay close attention to words, pauses, and nonverbal signals while maintaining a calm, receptive posture. Reflect subtle cues back in the form of concise, emotional labels. For example, if someone hesitates while describing a situation, saying "it seems like there's some uncertainty about this," validates their inner experience. This reflection signals awareness without judgment and encourages a dialogue that is honest, emotionally rich, and mutually respectful. Labeling emotions also reduces tension in challenging situations. Conflict, disagreement, or stress often escalates when individuals feel misunderstood or dismissed. Naming emotions provides a stabilizing effect. A statement like, "It seems like you're feeling anxious about the outcome," acknowledges the inner state and diffuses defensive reactions. It frames the conversation in terms of shared understanding rather than opposition. Over time, consistently practicing this technique builds credibility and strengthens rapport in both professional and personal contexts. Ethical application is crucial. The goal is to foster connection, not manipulation. Emotional labeling must be sincere, accurate, and respectful. Mislabeling, exaggerating, or weaponizing emotional insight undermines trust and can damage relationships irreparably. Discipline and integrity in practice are paramount, creating a foundation for communication that prioritizes authenticity and empathy. Repeated, ethical practice cultivates a natural sensitivity to emotion that becomes instinctive, enhancing the quality of all interactions. Developing this skill requires daily practice. Observe colleagues, friends, and family in natural settings, noticing emotional cues. Mentally label these cues. Then, when appropriate, verbalize observations in a subtle, respectful manner. Over time, one becomes attuned to nuances that previously went unnoticed. The brief flicker of frustration, a softened smile of relief, or a fleeting look of pride. Daily application transforms the habit from conscious effort into instinctive, perceptual ability. Reflection amplifies growth. After labeling emotions in interactions, consider the impact. Did the label resonate? Did it encourage openness? Did it influence the tone of the conversation positively? Tracking these outcomes strengthens judgment, awareness, and discernment. This cycle of observation, labeling, and reflection gradually refines the skill, producing interactions characterized by mutual understanding, trust, and emotional clarity. Labeling emotions also enhances influence and persuasion ethically. When individuals feel that their emotional state is recognized and validated, they become more receptive, cooperative, and open to dialogue. Influence is strongest when it arises from connection rather than force. Practicing emotional labeling creates a subtle, powerful channel for fostering collaboration, facilitating negotiation, and navigating interpersonal dynamics with ease and integrity. The skill extends to recognizing unspoken emotions. Many individuals hesitate to articulate feelings explicitly, masking them beneath neutral statements or practiced restraint. Labeling allows insight into these hidden states, providing a bridge for authentic communication. For instance, someone saying "I'm fine" while exhibiting tense posture or clipped speech may benefit from a gentle "It seems like you might be feeling stressed right now." This approach invites honesty and demonstrates attentive presence, strengthening relational bonds. Combining labeling with other observational techniques enhances effectiveness. Aligning labels with microexpressions, body language, and baseline behavior shifts produces a multidimensional understanding of emotional states. The integration of these methods allows one to respond with precision, empathy, and strategic awareness. Over time, the ability to perceive complex emotional landscapes becomes almost instinctive, creating interactions marked by understanding and respect. Daily repetition nurtures internal discipline. It trains the mind to notice subtle emotional cues and to articulate recognition thoughtfully. Practitioners develop patience, self-control, and the capacity to remain calm amidst volatile situations. Labeling emotions consistently builds a habit of conscious presence, reducing impulsive reactions and promoting measured, informed responses. These qualities are the hallmarks of emotional intelligence and self-mastery. Long-term practice fosters deeper connection. Individuals who regularly apply emotional labeling find relationships richer, communication more transparent, and trust more resilient. Recognizing and naming emotions validates experiences, encourages openness, and creates a sense of safety in dialogue. This consistent engagement cultivates profound social and emotional insight, enhancing both personal growth and relational competence. Labeling emotions is more than a conversational tactic. It is a discipline of perception, patience, and empathy. It requires careful observation, ethical consideration, and deliberate articulation. Over time, the practice transforms interactions, providing clarity, understanding, and connection in every exchange. The act of naming emotions cultivates an environment where honesty and authenticity thrive, fostering relationships built on trust, respect, and mutual insight. Mastery of this skill elevates daily interactions into meaningful engagement, creating a life enriched by deeper understanding, stronger bonds, and refined emotional intelligence. Number 7. Match communication style quickly. Every interaction carries its own rhythm, tone, and pace, and the ability to match someone's communication style quickly transforms ordinary conversation into meaningful connection. Communication is not solely about words. It encompasses speed, tone, volume, choice of language, and nonverbal cues. People naturally respond more positively when they feel understood on these multiple levels, and aligning with their style fosters trust, empathy, and cooperation. The skill of quickly matching communication style is a disciplined practice that enhances clarity, strengthens rapport, and allows for more effective influence without manipulation. The first step is observation. Before attempting to match style, one must perceive it accurately. Listen to the tone of voice. Is it calm, assertive, rapid, or measured? Observe the pacing of speech. Do they pause thoughtfully, speak in bursts, or maintain a constant rhythm? Notice word choice and sentence structure. Are they concise, metaphorical, technical, or emotional? Even subtle elements like volume, pitch, and inflection carry meaning. Simultaneously, watch body language, gestures, posture, and facial expressions often mirror the style of verbal communication. A full understanding requires integrating these dimensions into a coherent picture of the person's natural style. Once the style is identified, begin mirroring it subtly. Matching speed, tone, and choice of words creates alignment without imitation. If someone speaks quickly and energetically, slightly increase your tempo while maintaining clarity. If another speaks slowly and deliberately, pause thoughtfully and choose measured responses. Subtle adjustments communicate attentiveness and adaptability, signaling that the listener is present and attuned to the speaker's rhythm. The key is naturalness. Exaggerated mimicry feels artificial and may break rapport, whereas subtle synchronization feels intuitive and builds trust. Matching style involves adapting vocabulary and phrasing. People resonate more deeply when communication mirrors their linguistic patterns. Technical individuals respond well to precise, data-driven terms. Creative or expressive individuals connect with metaphor, analogy, and vivid imagery. Emotional or relational communicators prefer language that conveys empathy, shared experience, or validation. Observing these tendencies allows one to adjust word choice in real time, creating resonance and clarity. Daily practice in noticing and aligning vocabulary sharpens this perceptual skill, turning it into instinctive adaptability. Nonverbal alignments strengthens verbal matching. Gestures, posture, and eye contact convey as much as spoken words. Subtle mirroring of hand movements, head nods, or lean can reinforce rapport. Synchronizing nonverbal behavior with speech enhances credibility and conveys presence. For instance, if a person leans forward to emphasize a point, leaning slightly forward in response communicates engagement and interest. Subtle facial expressions that reflect the emotional tone of the conversation further reinforce alignment. The integration of verbal and nonverbal adaptation produces seamless, compelling connection. Speed of adaptation is essential. Matching communication style quickly does not imply rushed imitation. It requires perceptive, calculated adjustment. Focused observation during the first moments of interaction allows recognition of key patterns. Initial statements can be used to establish baseline style. Listen carefully, note pacing, tone, volume, and energy. Then calibrate responses accordingly. Quick yet measured adaptation demonstrates social intelligence, enhancing understanding while preserving authenticity. Flexibility is critical. No single interaction exists in isolation. Styles can shift based on mood, context, or topic. Awareness of these dynamic changes allows continuous adaptation. Observing subtle shifts in energy, word choice, or body language signals when to adjust style further. For example, a conversation may begin with calm, analytical discourse, but shift to excitement or tension. Quick recognition and adjustment maintain alignment, sustaining rapport and facilitating effective communication throughout fluctuating conditions. Matching communication style also involves emotional congruence. Aligning with emotional intensity fosters connection and trust, A highly enthusiastic speaker benefits from a responsive, energetic tone. A somber or reflective individual requires measured, composed responses. Emotional alignment communicates empathy and understanding. It is not about feigning emotion, but responding in a manner that respects and mirrors the speaker's current state, creating a safe space for open dialogue and authentic expression. Practice in diverse scenarios accelerates skill acquisition. Interact with individuals across professions, cultures, and personality types. Observe differences in tone, pacing, and linguistic patterns. Deliberately adjust responses to align with each style. Then reflect on outcomes. Was the interaction smoother? Did understanding deepen? And was rapport strengthened? Daily exposure to varied communication styles refines the ability to detect subtle cues and adapt quickly, producing confidence and versatility in all interactions. Observation combined with active listening amplifies effectiveness. Attention to content, rhythm, and emotion reveals nuances in style that may otherwise be overlooked. For example, a speaker might use a calm voice to convey urgency subtly. Awareness of these subtleties allows for responsive adaptation, reinforcing engagement and trust. Active listening ensures that alignment is responsive to real cues rather than assumptions, maintaining authenticity and ethical practice. Integrating pacing techniques enhances adaptation. Matching conversational tempo requires conscious modulation of speech rate, pause intervals, and word emphasis. Begin by slightly adjusting pacing toward the other person's natural rhythm, then fine-tune in real time based on responsiveness. Observing feedback such as nods, smiles, or verbal acknowledgement confirms effective alignment. This iterative process strengthens perceptual accuracy and responsiveness, creating fluid, natural communication. Ethical application remains paramount. Matching communication style is a tool for understanding, collaboration, and connection, not manipulation or deceit. The goal is to foster genuine rapport, facilitate clarity, and enhance mutual understanding. Practicing with integrity builds credibility, strengthens relationships, and ensures the skill contributes to authentic influence rather than coercion. Discipline and mindfulness and application safeguard trust while maximizing the benefits of adaptive communication. Reflective practice consolidates skill. After each interaction, analyze what strategies were effective, which adjustments improved alignment, what nonverbal cues were most influential, and how verbal tone contributed to understanding. Journaling observations reinforces learning and enhances pattern recognition over time. This process of observation, adaptation, and reflection transforms conscious effort into instinctive expertise, enabling rapid, accurate matching of communication styles in varied contexts. Long-term benefits include enhanced leadership, collaboration, and conflict resolution. Leaders who quickly match communication styles create environments of psychological safety, engagement, and responsiveness. Teams function more effectively when members feel understood and aligned in style. Conflicts are mitigated when adaptive communication conveys empathy and comprehension. The ability to adjust style rapidly and subtly becomes a strategic asset, supporting influence, clarity, and relational harmony. Matching communication style quickly also develops self-awareness. Observing others' rhythms illuminates one's habitual tendencies, biases, and default pacing. Awareness of these personal patterns enables more deliberate adaptation and self-regulation. Daily practice enhances emotional intelligence, perceptual sensitivity, and disciplined responsiveness. The process of alignment becomes not only a tool for understanding others, but also a mirror for cultivating composure, presence, and adaptability within oneself. Mastery of this skill transforms everyday interactions into meaningful connections. Conversations become smoother, understanding deepens, and relationships strengthen. Rapid alignment with communication style fosters trust, empathy, and cooperation, while minimizing miscommunication and frustration. Over time, habitual application of this skill cultivates confidence, social intelligence, and the ability to navigate complex interpersonal dynamics with clarity, grace, and effectiveness. Ultimately, matching communication style quickly is a disciplined practice of observation, adaptation, and ethical engagement. It combines attentiveness to verbal and nonverbal cues with the ability to adjust rhythm, tone, and language naturally. Daily application sharpens perception, enhances rapport, and strengthens emotional intelligence. This skill empowers individuals to connect authentically, respond thoughtfully, and influence effectively, transforming ordinary interactions into rich, productive, and insightful exchanges that deepen understanding, build trust, and foster meaningful human connection. Number 8. Watch feet direction. Feet are often overlooked in communication, yet they are one of the most honest indicators of a person's focus, interest, and emotional state. While people can consciously control their words, gestures, and even facial expressions, the orientation of the feet is largely subconscious. It reflects where attention lies, what feels safe, and how comfortable or engaged someone is in a given interaction. Watching feet direction is a subtle but powerful skill, providing insights into intention, attraction, avoidance, and readiness to act. It is an underutilized window into human behavior that, when observed carefully, enhances understanding, rapport, and strategic communication. The practice begins with awareness. In most interactions, feet point naturally toward what draws attention. During a conversation, if the feet are oriented toward you, it indicates engagement and openness. Conversely, if they drift toward the door, away from you, or toward another individual, it often signals distraction, discomfort, or desire to exit the interaction. Observing foot placement requires a calm presence and patience, allowing the body to reveal subtle truths that may be masked by more controlled signals, such as facial expressions or verbal assurance. Context is crucial in interpreting feet direction accurately. Environment, social norms, and situational pressures influence orientation. In crowded spaces, feet may naturally align in directions unrelated to attention. In formal settings, individuals may restrict movements, masking natural tendencies. It is important to establish patterns over time, noting habitual positioning under relaxed conditions. This creates a baseline from which deviations can be recognized and interpreted. Accurate observation depends on patience, repeated attention, and integration of multiple signals rather than isolated scrutiny. Subtle shifts in foot direction often reveal emotional states or decision-making processes. A slight inward turn toward a speaker or subject indicates interest and readiness to engage, while an outward or angled position may suggest discomfort, hesitation, or defensive posture. People often point their feet toward what they subconsciously want to approach and away from what they wish to avoid. Noticing these shifts in real time allows one to respond appropriately, adjusting approach, tone, or body language to align with emotional cues. Foot movement is also a reflection of energy and engagement. Tapping, bouncing, or restless shifting often signals impatience, anxiety, or excitement. Sudden stillness may indicate careful attention or the suppression of emotion. Observing these movements in conjunction with upper body gestures, facial expressions, and verbal cues provides a multidimensional view of the individual's current state. The combination of direction and motion offers insight that words alone rarely convey, allowing one to anticipate reactions or adapt interaction strategies. The skill requires continuous observation throughout the interaction. Feet orientation can change quickly as the conversation progresses, particularly when topics shift or emotions intensify. A speaker's feet may initially point toward a neutral position, then pivot toward the listener as engagement grows. Similarly, during tension or disagreement, feet may angle subtly toward an exit or away from the source of conflict. Observing these micro shifts enhances situational awareness, enabling timely adjustments to tone, approach, or pacing to maintain rapport or manage influence effectively. Incorporating foot observation with other nonverbal cues strengthens interpretation. Foot direction should be analyzed alongside posture, hand gestures, eye contact, and facial expressions. If feet are angled away but the person maintains eye contact and smiles, it may suggest partial discomfort but overall engagement. If feet point outward with crossed arms and avoidance of eye contact, the signal is stronger, indicating a desire to disengage. Integration of multiple cues allows for nuanced understanding, preventing misinterpretation and supporting accurate assessment of emotional and relational states. Ethical use of this observation is critical. The goal is insight and alignment, not manipulation or exploitation. Observing foot direction provides understanding to respond thoughtfully, not to deceive or coerce. Practicing this skill with integrity ensures that insights enhance communication, foster trust, and strengthen relationships. The discipline lies in perceiving without judgment, interpreting without assumption, and acting with sensitivity to the emotional and relational context. Daily practice in diverse settings sharpens perceptual acuity. Observe interactions in social gatherings, professional meetings, or casual conversations. Notice patterns of alignment and deviation, correlating them with engagement, comfort, and decision-making. Over time, the mind internalizes these patterns, allowing rapid and accurate interpretation in real time. Consistency in practice transforms a subtle observation into an intuitive skill that informs behavior and strategy across varied social contexts. Combining feet observation with verbal and emotional analysis deepens understanding. When someone verbally expresses agreement, but feet subtly angle away, there may be hesitancy or unspoken concern. When feet and verbal expressions align, confidence and authenticity are reinforced. Monitoring these congruencies and discrepancies provides insight into truthfulness, comfort levels, and readiness to act. This layered approach to observation creates a sophisticated awareness of human behavior and enhances decision-making in interpersonal interactions. Foot orientation also conveys relational dynamics. People tend to point their feet toward individuals they subconsciously perceive as allies, sources of support, or objects of interest. In group interactions, the direction of feet often reveals unspoken attention or preference. Subtle observation of alignment patterns can identify who holds influence, who is disengaged, and who is emotionally attuned to others. This information allows one to navigate group dynamics more effectively, fostering cooperation and minimizing friction. Reflection amplifies mastery. After interactions, review observed foot positions and associated behaviors. Consider how orientation correlated with verbal content, engagement, and emotional tone. Assess how this insight influenced responses or outcomes. This reflection strengthens memory, pattern recognition, and predictive capacity, creating a feedback loop that reinforces the skill. Over time, the ability to detect and interpret foot direction becomes instinctive, integrated seamlessly into broader perceptual and communication practices. Matching responses to foot signals enhances rapport. If feet indicate engagement, reciprocal openness and attention reinforce connection. If feet suggest discomfort or disengagement, subtle adjustments, changing proximity, altering tone, or shifting topics can reestablish comfort and trust. The skill lies in the ability to act on observation with subtlety and respect, creating alignment that supports meaningful interaction rather than forcing compliance. Long-term application cultivates patience, presence, and social intelligence. Attention to such a subtle cue trains the mind to notice nuances and attend to details that others overlook. The skill develops observational discipline, enhancing perception of micro-behaviors across multiple channels. Practicing this consistently improves empathy, emotional awareness, and relational sensitivity, equipping individuals to navigate complex human environments with skill and insight. Ultimately, watching feet direction is a powerful, understated tool for understanding attention, engagement, and emotional states. By observing orientation, movement, and subtle shifts, one gains access to information often hidden beneath conscious control. When integrated with verbal, facial, and postural cues, this skill enhances perception, communication, and influence. Mastery of foot observation transforms interactions, providing clarity, fostering rapport, and enabling responsive, ethical engagement that respects both the conscious and subconscious expressions of human behavior. Daily application nurtures an acute, disciplined awareness that elevates every interaction into an opportunity for insight, connection, and meaningful understanding. Number 9. Pause before interpreting motives. Human behavior is complex, layered, and often influenced by factors invisible on the surface. Every action carries a context shaped by emotion, experience, and circumstance. The immediate tendency to assign motives to another person's behavior can cloud judgment, create misunderstandings, and provoke unnecessary conflict. Pausing before interpreting motives is a disciplined practice that allows clarity, patience, and insight to emerge. It transforms reactive assumptions into thoughtful observation, enabling one to understand behavior in its full context before drawing conclusions. The first step in mastering this approach is cultivating awareness of one's own impulses. The mind naturally seeks to explain, predict, and categorize human actions. When someone interrupts, criticizes, or behaves unexpectedly, the instinct is often to assign intent immediately, assuming malice, incompetence, or manipulation. Recognizing this reflex is essential. Awareness allows one to insert a deliberate pause, preventing premature judgment and creating space to observe objectively. The pause is not passive. It is a conscious choice to resist interpretation until sufficient information is available. Observation becomes the primary focus during this pause. Rather than rushing to attribute motives, attention should center on the behavior itself, what is occurring, how it manifests, and in what context. Notice verbal content, tone, body language, and microexpressions. Consider situational factors, such as stress, environment, and social dynamics. By concentrating on observable details rather than conjecture, one builds an accurate foundation for later analysis. This approach fosters both empathy and analytical clarity, reducing the influence of cognitive biases that often distort perception. Emotional regulation is a critical companion to this skill. Impulsive interpretations are frequently driven by emotional reactions, anger, frustration, jealousy, or anxiety. Pausing allows the nervous system to stabilize, ensuring that observations are informed by calm presence rather than reactive emotion. Techniques such as deep breathing, counting silently, or brief reflection reinforce composure, creating mental space to absorb and assess information. Emotional self-mastery in these moments is as important as observational acuity. During the pause, it is helpful to consider multiple potential explanations for behavior. Human actions are rarely driven by a single, simple motive. A colleague's curt response may stem from stress, fatigue, distraction, or personal matters rather than intentional disrespect. A friend's avoidance might indicate embarrassment, preoccupation, or uncertainty rather than rejection. Generating multiple hypotheses without immediately committing to one prevents narrow thinking and allows for a more nuanced understanding of behavior. Contextual awareness strengthens interpretation. Behavior is influenced by past experiences, cultural norms, current circumstances, and relational dynamics. Pausing before assigning motive provides the opportunity to consider these layers. For instance, an abrupt email from a superior may reflect organizational pressure rather than personal animosity. Recognizing the situational context allows responses to be measured, strategic, and empathetic rather than maze or defensive. Understanding context also builds resilience, reducing emotional volatility in response to perceived slights. Listening and observation remain active during this pause. The mind should gather as much information as possible, noting verbal patterns, inconsistencies, nonverbal cues, and environmental signals. This practice enhances perceptual accuracy, revealing underlying intentions more reliably than immediate assumption. Often, clues that clarify motive appear subtly over time. A brief delay allows these signals to emerge naturally, producing insight without forcing interpretation prematurely. Pausing also promotes humility. Assuming one knows the motives of another person risks arrogance and misjudgment. Accepting uncertainty and delaying interpretation fosters intellectual and emotional humility. It acknowledges the limits of perception and the complexity of human psychology. This mindset strengthens relational intelligence, reduces conflict, and enhances credibility as others sense a measured, thoughtful presence rather than impulsive judgment. Reflection during the pause improves response quality. Before reacting, ask questions such as, "What could be influencing this behavior?" or "What information am I missing?" This reflective inquiry encourages exploration rather than reaction. It transforms the pause from mere hesitation into an active cognitive process, sharpening insight and preparing for informed, constructive response. Reflection also helps identify personal biases, assumptions, and triggers, ensuring that interpretations are as objective as possible. Patience is reinforced through daily practice. Real mastery requires integrating the pause habit into ordinary interactions, not only during high-stakes situations. Begin by noticing small behaviors and resisting immediate judgments. A colleague's delayed reply, a friend's distracted demeanor, or a stranger's curt comment. Apply the pause consistently, observing, reflecting, and only then considering possible motives. Over time, this discipline trains the mind to respond thoughtfully under pressure, creating a foundation for sustained relational and emotional intelligence. The pause also facilitates ethical engagement. Interpreting motives too quickly often leads to unfair assumptions, manipulation, or unnecessary conflict. Deliberate delay allows responses grounded in fairness, respect, and understanding. It encourages active listening, measured inquiry, and empathetic engagement. By choosing observation over speculation, one demonstrates integrity, self-control, and awareness, qualities that reinforce trust and credibility in relationships. Integration with other observational skills amplifies effectiveness. Pairing the pause with attention to microexpressions, body language, baseline behavior shifts, and verbal cues creates a comprehensive understanding of human behavior. This multidimensional approach reduces the risk of misinterpretation, highlighting patterns and inconsistencies that may otherwise be overlooked. Over time, the pause becomes not only a preventative measure against error, but also a catalyst for deeper insight into motivation and intent. Daily reflection enhances long-term development. After interactions, review moments where the pause was applied. What did you observe? What potential motives emerged? And what clarifying information became available? Consider what assumptions were avoided and what insights were gained. This post-interaction reflection consolidates learning, strengthens pattern recognition, and improves judgment in future scenarios. Over months, the cumulative effect creates an almost instinctive ability to respond with wisdom, restraint, and accuracy. Pausing before interpreting motives fosters empathy and relational harmony. By resisting premature judgment, one allows others the space to express themselves fully, reducing miscommunication and tension. People sense when they are being truly observed rather than evaluated, which encourages openness, honesty, and trust. The pause is both a shield against misunderstanding and a bridge toward authentic connection, facilitating collaboration, negotiation, and constructive dialogue. Long-term application transforms perception, judgment, and behavior. The practice teaches patience, enhances self-awareness, and strengthens the ability to navigate complex social environments. It cultivates disciplined observation, emotional control, and reflective thinking. Individuals who master this habit develop insight into human behavior that surpasses surface-level observation, allowing accurate understanding of motives, intentions, and relational dynamics without succumbing to assumption or impulse. Ultimately, pausing before interpreting motives is a profound tool for personal growth, social intelligence, and emotional mastery. It converts instinctive judgment into conscious observation, impatience into patience, and assumption into informed understanding. By consistently applying this practice, one develops the capacity to perceive intentions accurately, respond with wisdom, and cultivate relationships grounded in trust, empathy, and respect. The discipline of the pause transforms daily interactions into opportunities for clarity, insight, and meaningful connection, empowering individuals to navigate human behavior with precision, composure, and integrity. Number 10. Test assumptions gently. Human perception is powerful, but often flawed, shaped by experience, expectation, and personal bias. Every interaction comes with an internal narrative, a set of assumptions about why people say or do what they do. These assumptions, if left unchecked, can distort understanding, create miscommunication, and generate unnecessary tension. Testing assumptions gently is a disciplined, conscious practice that converts conjecture into clarity. It allows one to explore the truth behind behavior without confrontation or judgment, fostering understanding, trust, and effective communication. The first step in this practice is awareness of assumptions as they arise. Every thought about another person's behavior, whether they are being rude, evasive, or disinterested, should be noted without immediate acceptance. Recognizing the distinction between observation and interpretation is crucial. A person's silence may be interpreted as disinterest, but it could just as easily be concentration, stress, or habit. Acknowledging the presence of an assumption without committing to it creates mental space to explore further. This initial step cultivates mindfulness, helping prevent premature judgments from shaping responses or decisions. Observation remains central. Careful attention to behavior, verbal cues, tone, and body language lays the groundwork for accurate interpretation. Observing without overlaying judgment is key. Notice what occurs rather than what you expect to occur. Document patterns mentally, noting deviations and consistencies. Baseline behaviors, microexpressions, and subtle shifts in posture or voice all provide essential data. These details allow assumptions to be evaluated against reality rather than being accepted as fact. The disciplined observer trains the mind to separate perception from projection, creating a foundation for thoughtful inquiry. Once an assumption is identified, it should be approached with gentle verification. This does not involve confrontation, accusation, or insistence, but subtle, open-ended inquiry. For example, if one assumes a colleague is frustrated with a project, a statement such as "I noticed you seemed tense during that discussion. Is there something on your mind?" invites clarification. The language is neutral, non-judgmental, and respectful, encouraging honesty without creating defensiveness. Gentle testing transforms assumptions from potential barriers into opportunities for insight and connection. Timing and tone are essential in testing assumptions. Approaches should be deliberate, avoiding moments of high tension or distraction. Pausing until an interaction feels natural allows the person to respond without pressure. Tone should convey curiosity and care rather than skepticism or judgment. Subtlety ensures that the inquiry is perceived as supportive rather than critical. Over time, this disciplined approach develops both relational sensitivity and social intelligence, enhancing the ability to navigate complex human interactions with grace. The questions themselves should be open-ended, inviting explanation rather than demanding confirmation. Asking, "Can you tell me more about how you're feeling regarding this?" rather than, "Are you upset?" allows the individual to provide context and detail. Open-ended queries reveal nuance and complexity that binary questions often obscure. They also encourage reflective communication, prompting the speaker to articulate internal states clearly and thoughtfully. The observer gains insight into motives, intentions, and emotional landscapes, improving both understanding and relational trust. Testing assumptions gently requires restraint and patience. Immediate reactions, impulsive interpretations, or attempts to solve perceived issues before clarification often undermine rapport. By pausing, observing, and gently verifying assumptions, one fosters a safe space for authentic communication. This patience enhances both the accuracy of understanding and the quality of relational exchange. Each interaction becomes an opportunity to refine perception, validate understanding, and strengthen trust. Reflection amplifies mastery. After testing an assumption, review the outcome. Was the perception accurate, partially accurate, or incorrect? Consider what cues were missed, misinterpreted, or properly assessed. Reflection strengthens pattern recognition and hones intuition, allowing future assumptions to be tested more efficiently and effectively. Documenting these observations, mentally or in writing, reinforces learning and supports long-term development, perceptual and relational skills. Ethical application is paramount. Testing assumptions is not a tool for manipulation, persuasion, or control. It is a practice rooted in respect, curiosity, and a commitment to truth. Approaching assumptions with integrity ensures that interactions build trust rather than erode it. The discipline lies in balancing inquiry with respect for boundaries, listening without judgment, and validating experiences without imposing interpretation. Ethical practice amplifies the benefits of this skill, producing authentic connection and reliable insight. Integrating this practice with other observational techniques multiplies effectiveness. Testing assumptions works best when combined with attention to microexpressions, emotional keywords, baseline behavior shifts, body language, and communication style. Cross-referencing assumptions against multiple cues reduces errors and strengthens understanding. This multidimensional approach creates a comprehensive perception of human behavior, allowing responses to be both informed and empathetic. It transforms assumptions from liabilities into tools for connection and insight. Daily application builds habit and perceptual acuity. Begin with minor assumptions in low-stakes interactions, noticing a friend's unusual tone, a colleague's hesitation, or a stranger's distracted behavior. Apply gentle verification consistently, observe responses, and reflect on outcomes. Repetition trains the mind to pause before judgment, approach inquiries with tact, and integrate observation into intuitive practice. Over weeks and months, the skill becomes instinctive, producing a disciplined approach to understanding human behavior across contexts. Testing assumptions gently enhances empathy. By seeking clarification before judgment, one validates the complexity of the other person's experience. This practice communicates respect, attentiveness, and care, signaling that the individual's thoughts and feelings are taken seriously. Empathy deepens relational bonds, promotes open communication, and reduces conflict. It transforms interactions into dialogues rather than debates, creating an environment where mutual understanding flourishes. Long-term benefits extend to leadership, collaboration, and personal growth. Leaders who test assumptions cultivate credibility, reduce miscommunication, and inspire confidence. Teams function more cohesively when members feel understood rather than personal relationships benefit from reduced misunderstandings, increased patience, and more thoughtful engagement. Over time, this practice strengthens social intelligence, emotional awareness, and the capacity for disciplined reflection in all areas of life. Subtlety is the hallmark of this skill. Testing assumptions gently avoids confrontation, preserves dignity, and encourages openness. Small adjustments in phrasing, tone, and timing can make the difference between defensiveness and candid communication. Observers learn to balance curiosity with discretion, ensuring that their inquiry enhances understanding rather than creating discomfort. Mastery of subtlety allows the practitioner to navigate delicate interactions with grace, precision, and respect. Ultimately, testing assumptions gently is a practice of humility, patience, and attentive observation. It requires recognizing the limits of perception, pausing to collect information, and seeking verification through respectful inquiry. By applying this discipline consistently, individuals reduce misinterpretation, enhance empathy, and build trust. Each interaction becomes an opportunity to clarify reality, strengthen relationships, and develop insight into human behavior. Over time, the practice cultivates a mindset of thoughtful engagement, ethical observation, and perceptive understanding, empowering individuals to navigate the complexities of human interaction with wisdom, composure, and subtle influence.